Yo, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for clicking on this video. I'm coming at you today with my week 8 wide receiver rankings. I just dropped my running back video, so if you didn't see that, make sure to go check that out. Like I just said, we're going to be doing the top 30 wide receivers for week 8. Now, if you've been watching my videos, make sure to drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel, got content coming the rest of the year. Comment if you got any other start-sit questions. I'll get back to you right away. And also, before we actually get into the rankings, got to mention the bye weeks. We got the Chiefs and the Chargers on bye. So not a lot of teams, but we are going to be missing some valuable people. Hopefully, Keenan and Mike Williams will both be able to heal up and be ready to go. I doubt Mike Williams will be ready after the bye since he just had a high ankle sprain, but hopefully Keenan Allen will be ready. He got some reps in, but obviously, wasn't Keenan Allen yet. Hopefully the bye week will give enough time to become back to himself and he'll be good to go, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. Anyways, let's actually get into the rankings. Okay, so the top 3 wide receivers are basically always going to be the same for me, at least how the fantasy landscape is. These top 3 will be the top for me every single week. It's going to be Cooper Kupp and then Stephon Diggs and Justin Jefferson. Now, whatever order you really want to rank it in doesn't really matter to me. They're obviously all absolute studs that are going to be in your lineup no matter what. Cooper Kupp going up against the Niners has been a really tough matchup, but got absolutely torched last week. That was against the Chiefs though, so hard to take really a lot from that. Kupp though should be fine every single week, doesn't really matter. Diggs is going up against Green Bay, which has also been a pretty tough matchup. We'll have Jair Alexander on him, but not something I'm really too worried about for him. Justin Jefferson might have the hardest one-on-one matchup going up against Byron Murphy against the Arizona Cardinals, but another person that is pretty much just matchup proof and going to be in your lineup and an elite option every single week. Moving on to tier 2, my wide receiver 4, I'm going to have Jamar Chase. He has gone absolutely nuclear these past 2 weeks, but has been great to see. Over 130 yards and 2 touchdowns in both of the past 2 games, just awesome. Going up against the Cleveland Browns, not something I'm too worried about. On paper, they've been pretty good against the wide receivers, but they've been absolutely terrible. Probably the worst team against running backs this year, and I think that's the main culprit as to why. And regardless, Jamar Chase is another person that is just matchup proof, but he's not an absolute target hog every single week like these other guys might be. He's going to have these massive explosion weeks like we see, and then some weeks won't be as good, but still an elite top 5 option every single week. After him, I'm going to have Tyreek Hill, who's going up against the Detroit Lions, another terrible defense. Having Tua back is also good for the offense overall. He didn't have a great week last week, but still had 13 targets, so I'm not worried about him whatsoever. Another elite option that obviously going to be your lineup no matter what. After him, I'm going to have DeAndre Hopkins, who played on 92% of the snaps of his first week back, saw 14 targets, went 10 for 103, didn't even find the end zone. I mean, I think that this is going to be pretty common for him. Is pretty much what he did with Kyler before, and he's one of the main targets, if not the only significant target in that offense. He should be getting massive volume every single week, going to give him a great floor, and obviously will have massive upside every single week because he is such a great red zone threat. If you can still somehow get him, definitely try to get him on your team. This window for him is going to close shut pretty soon if it hasn't already. And the last guy I'm going to have in this tier, my wide receiver 7, is going to be Devontae Adams. He's just one of those elite guys that's going to have a great floor every single week. Had 8 receptions on 9 targets for 95 yards last week, just solid every single week if that's your floor. And then you saw the week before where he only had 3 receptions, but I had 124 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he has that really good floor and a really high upside. Going up against the New Orleans Saints too, they've given up the 4th most points to wide receivers over the past 4 weeks. So should be an absolutely smash matchup for him. We'll see if they get Marshawn Lattimore back. That would definitely make it more difficult if they do, but something we'll just have to monitor as the week goes on, but doesn't really affect how you're going to rank him. He's going to be in your lineup no matter what. Okay, on to tier 3, my wide receiver 8, we're going to have Jalen Waddle. Like I talked about Tyreek, the matchup for the Detroit Lions is absolutely great. Offense is better with Tua back. Jalen has shown to be absolutely explosive and a great fantasy option, as well as a great real football option. Even on only 5 targets and 4 receptions, still at 88 yards, so it's still definitely serviceable for your fantasy team. I think that we should see an explosion game from one of, if not both of these guys. After him, I'm going to have CeeDee Lamb. He's going up against the Chicago Bears, which has not been a very good defense so far, although they did look pretty good the other day against the Patriots. They have been giving up a ton of points to running backs, and because of that, it's made them one of the toughest matchups for wide receivers. Now, I think CeeDee Lamb, another person that you're not too worried about, just given his talent and having Dak back. So he's going to be in your lineup, but I did lower him a little bit, as you can see right here. Still at my wide receiver 9, though. And the last guy that I'm going to have in this tier coming off a bye is A.J. Brown. Going up against the Steelers, it's a really good matchup. Over the past 4 weeks, they've given up the 3rd most points to fantasy wide receivers. And he's someone who has a little bit lower floor, given that Jalen Hurts runs the ball so much. Also have Devonta Smith, but he's such a great athlete and still the clear wide receiver 1 in this offense that it makes him an elite option with high upside every single week. But there's the end of my tier 3, so we'll move on to tier 4 now. First up in there is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. This is obviously dependent dependent on if he plays. He was finally back from the bye and the injury, and then he got hurt with a concussion almost right away in the game, so he didn't really do much. We're going to have to monitor the concussion situation, obviously, as the week goes on. He's already proven where he's one of those people where if he's playing, he's going to be in your lineup. Also going up against the Miami Dolphins, it's a pretty good matchup for wide receivers, so if he's healthy, he should be good to go. So hopefully he's able to play. Make sure to monitor the situation throughout the week. After him, a wide receiver 12, I'm going to have Mike Evans. So he didn't practice Monday this week. He was also limited on Tuesday, so you need to monitor his situation. They are playing on Thursday night, so we'll obviously know before. If he's playing, I think you should play him. He had a pretty solid week last week, had 15 targets, which is great to see, 9 receptions for 96 yards. One of the first plays of the games, though, he dropped about a 75-yard wide open walk-in touchdown, which would have made him have an absolutely nuclear week, which really hurts to see. But it is great to see him getting that wide open and then him still getting all that usage afterwards. So if he's playing, obviously you got to play him. We will know before too long since it's a Thursday night game, but definitely just want to make sure that you're monitoring it throughout. After Mike Evans, we're going to have T. Higgins. He had 5 receptions for 93 yards and was just inches away from a touchdown. They could have reviewed it, but I think they were worried about it being a fumble out of the back of the end zone. But they went ahead and just ran quarterback sneak with Joe Burrow and got the touchdown. So he could have had a much bigger day with that touchdown. Still pretty solid. And this offense is just red hot right now. So you got to keep playing all of these options and just hope it continues. And I don't think that it's going to stop anytime soon, especially not against Cleveland. So T. Higgins, another great option this week. And the last guy in this tier that I have is going to be Chris Olave. Going up against the Las Vegas Raiders has been a really good matchup for wide receivers. And Olave has shown that he's absolutely great. Definitely the best rookie fantasy wide receiver this year, it seems like. Now, there is a decent chance that Jameis is coming back this week and also Jarvis Landry or Michael Thomas. So we're going to have to definitely monitor that. I think that you're still going to start him no matter what. He might drop down a little bit, but I think that he's just proven that he's got to be in your lineup. Now, I also don't have Michael Thomas ranked here. I think if he does play and also if Jameis plays, he's probably a low-end wide receiver 2, give or take. So as we get more news throughout the week, we'll definitely have a better idea of what it will look like. If you do have specific questions, just leave those in the comments down below. I can tell you what I think since it'll be later on, and hopefully we'll have a better idea of what's actually going to happen. Okay, moving on to my wide receiver 15, we're going to have Chris Godwin here. He didn't have a very good day last week for fantasy, but still wasn't absolutely terrible. Didn't crush you. 7 receptions for 43 yards, not great, but 13 targets is awesome to see. Hopefully that'll convert into more fantasy success. Still was on the field for 94% of the plays, so that is great to see. Like we talked about with Mike Evans, good matchup against Baltimore, but he is also hurt, so if he's not playing for some reason or is limited, then it could be a really good day for Chris Godwin. Regardless, I think he's a good, middle, high-end wide receiver too, that probably going to be in your lineup no matter what. And the other guy I'm going to have in this tier is Tyler Lockett. DK Metcalf isn't going to be playing this week, but it sounds like his injury isn't as serious as a lot of us thought it was going to be. Tyler Lockett kind of has been battling an injury of his own, and going up against the New York Giants, that's a tough matchup for wide receivers, but he's still been really good this year. Geno obviously been one of the best stories in the NFL this year. I think with DK not playing and Lockett playing, he's got to be in your lineup. Really high upside with those deep shots that they take with him, but should get really good volume with DK out. Now moving on to tier 6, my wide receiver 17, I'm going to have Gabe Davis. He's somebody that you're probably playing, but you definitely got to kind of have the right idea with him. He's not going to get a ton of volume, but he's going to have opportunity for massive big touchdown plays every single week, especially now that he seems to be fully healthy and coming off a bye. He hasn't had more than 6 targets any single week this year, but he's always on the field for almost every single snap. And we've seen on over half the games this year that he can have those big blow up games. We even saw the 98-yard touchdown, had over 30 points that week. So he's kind of that boomer bust player, but on this great offense with the Bills, you're going to have a great opportunity for that every single week. So definitely could do a lot worse than him, but not somebody that I think you should expect to be super consistent week over week. After him, I'm going to have Amari Cooper. He's been pretty consistent all year. Not an amazing week last week. Only had 3 receptions, but still 74 yards. Got in the end zone quite a few times throughout this year. Also, no David Njoku this week, so maybe some more opportunity for more targets. They are playing the Cincinnati Bengals, which has been a tough defense overall, and they've been really good against the wide receivers, so definitely going to temper my expectations, but probably going to have to throw a lot in this game since I imagine they'll be down to the Bengals, so it could be a really good week for him, but still a tough matchup. And the last guy that I'm going to have in this tier is going to be Devonta Smith. He's quietly been really consistent this year. He's only had 2 down weeks, which is just going to happen with wide receivers, but this offense is fantastic, and they're going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which has been one of the best matchups for wide receivers. So like I talked about with AJ Brown, I think it'd be a good opportunity for them to really dominate this matchup. But somebody that I think, again, could be a little bit boomer bust, although he has been pretty consistent the past couple weeks. So you could do a lot worse than Devonta Smith this week for sure. Now moving on to tier 7, my wide receiver 20, we're going to have Michael Pittman. This is really due to the quarterback change we have with Sam Ehlinger. We don't know what the tendencies with him are, who they like target. Now, I will say that Michael Pittman wasn't getting any deep targets with Matt Ryan. There was nothing down the field whatsoever. Everything was just like 5-yard slants, although he's getting a ton of volume and they're passing the ball like 50 times a game. I imagine that that's going to come down dramatically. So it's hard to imagine it will be a lot better for him when they're passing probably half the amount of time as they were. But that's just me kind of imagining what's going to happen. I don't actually know. That's just what I think will. Ellinger is also a lot more mobile, so he'll be getting out of the pocket more, which could be good for Pittman. But until we really see him in the field, I want to rank him a little bit lower. I'm still worried about it, but I think he's still going to be the clear wide receiver 1 in this offense and should get a good amount of targets and maybe some more down the field. Well, I don't know. We'll have to see. He does have a good matchup this week against the Washington Commanders, so I think we'll get a decent idea. But for right now, I got him ranked here, my wide receiver 20. After him, I'm going to have Christian Kirk, who I'm pretty worried about this week going up against Denver. Probably going to have the Patrick Surtain matchup, which he's been locking down everybody in the NFL this year, so I don't really have a lot of faith that Christian Kirk is going to be the one that's going to beat him, but he's still a crucial part of this offense and will be getting enough targets where you got to kind of play him around this area as a wide receiver, low end wide receiver 2, but I am not very excited about it, which is actually going to kind of be the case with a lot of these guys, so it's really just pick your poison. After him, I am going to have Jacoby Myers, who's going up against the New York Jets. It's crazy to say that we're already fearing a rookie cornerback like Sauce Gardner, but it's true. I mean, he's been fantastic against wide receivers, so I'm definitely a little bit worried about it, but I mean, we just got to react to what we've seen, and that's pretty much what we've seen so far. After him, I'm going to have Terry McLaurin, who they're going up against the Indianapolis Colts, which don't have quite the same shutdown cornerback, but they have been really good against wide receivers this year. We saw with Taylor Heineke, though, that they are going to absolutely hyper target Terry McLaurin. He's his go-to target. He always has been. We saw that again. He was forcing into some bad coverages, but not going to always be great, but it definitely gave me a little bit of confidence to play Terry where I got him. Yeah, schedule adjusted. Indianapolis is second against wide receivers, so really tough matchup for him, but I think he's going to get hyper targeted from Taylor Heineke no matter what. So going to be at least a solid, low end wide receiver 2 for you. Okay, next up, I have Brandon Ayuk. I totally realized that I did not mention Deebo Samuel. I have Deebo somewhere in this tier right here, in that tier 4. Got a tough matchup against the LA Rams and Jalen Ramsey and all of them, but still getting targeted and utilized a lot. Christian McCaffrey will be very utilized too. Hopefully that can just help out the offense some and give them more red zone opportunities, but we still definitely got to see what this offense looks like. Similar conversation with Ayuk. I don't think that he'll have the same type of tough matchup against Jalen that Samuel will, but Jalen also kind of lines up everywhere. He'll be rushing sometimes too, but regardless, that's a good defense and it's a tough matchup, but Ayuk has been getting involved a ton lately, and I think it's a solid option in your lineup every single week if you need him. But again, tough matchup against the Rams. And the last guy that I have in this tier is going to be Cortland Sutton, going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Been a kind of middle of the pack defense for wide receivers. I do think Russell Wilson will be back this week, so he's really hyper targeted Sutton when he's in. If Rippon is back in this week, then I would probably lower Sutton. He seemed to really like Jerry Jeudy as his main target, but there also has been conversation about Jerry Jeudy getting traded, so really got to kind of wait and see what's going to happen there. If Russ is starting, though, this is where I have him ranked. All right, on to my last tier. At my wide receiver 27, I'm going to have Deontay Johnson. Going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, going to have a tough matchup with Darius Slay and James Bradbury. He hasn't been very good with Kenny Pickett either, but he's still been getting targeted a ton, so you definitely got to take notice to it. George Pickens does seem to be more of a red zone target for them, but he's not getting quite the same volume that Deontay is, so I'm still going to have Deontay ranked as their wide receiver 1 for right now. After him, I'm going to have Brandon Cooks, which is going up against the Tennessee Titans. One of the best matchups for wide receivers. Hasn't been very good. Hopefully this can be a bounce back game for him. He can have 2 tough games after that, so if he struggles here, it's probably going to be time to bench him, but for right now, another good matchup. I think I'm going to have him in my lineup again this week. And then in my wide receiver 29, I'm going to have Jerry Jeudy. He was pretty good last week, even though the offense wasn't. A lot of that kind of had to do with Brett Rippon giving him a ton of targets, so depending on the quarterback, I would flip Sutton and Jeudy depending on who's starting, but Jerry is still shown to have some good weeks even with Russ, so still could be your lineup, but definitely a lot more scared if Russ is starting this week. And then I currently have Allen Lazard at this wide receiver 30 spot. He did get banged up this week, so we got to see if he's playing or not. If he's not playing, obviously not going to have him here. I still probably wouldn't put Romeo Doubs here. There's a lot of people at this end that are could be in this last tier and all could cycle throughout. Even Tyler Boyd is in there. I think with this new offense, DJ Moore is in there. I think Rashad Bateman is even interesting. Other people like Curtis Samuel, George Pickens, Higgins, Adam Thielen. They're all options that you could like intertwine with any of the people that are here right now. It's really tough at the end right here. If you have specific questions, let me know. It really helps if you give me like the scoring format, who is on your team, if you need to have a high upside or if you're favored to win. All those little things help me give decisions. So if you have questions, try to include as much detail as you can. But here are my top 30 wide receivers. This is more than 30 here, but these end guys right here is really tough to kind of decipher who you should play over who. It's really just kind of playing the matchups and who you think is going to go. Just trust your gut with those ones. It's really hard to tell. These people in the NFL don't know who's going to go off every week. There's really no reason we should. We just got to trust our process and try to kind of go with that. Like I said earlier, though, if you haven't seen my running back rankings, go check those out. My quarterback and tight end rankings for week 8 will be coming out soon, so stay tuned for those, and I will see y'all there. Later.